I want to tell you guys about futures. If you are day trading options or if you're just trading options in general, you need to know about futures. I'm going to tell you how I started with futures, why I was super hesitant to begin with, the pros, the cons. I'm going to give you just a little crash course in why, if you are trading options, the reason that everyone's coming away from options is going to futures is frankly because it's that good. I started looking at the ES and NQ to day trade QQQ and the SPY. And as time went on, I started to think to myself, well, if I'm using the NQ and I'm using the ES to day trade the SPY and the QQQ, why not just trade those charts directly? And the reason I was doing that is because futures trade overnight. So when you look at the QQQ and the SPY and the market opens at 9:30 and there's a gap up or down, that gap was created by the movement in the futures market overnight. So I was trading off of that because it was a much smoother curve. There wasn't a lot of gaps. You were able to see things a little bit more clearly. And I'm like, wait, if there is a way that I can trade this chart, this NQ directly, why don't I just do that? So why was I really hesitant? Well, first and foremost, all of the YouTubers that I was watching, which is frankly where I learned how to day trade and got all my education, all of them were either shorting stocks, which I was not comfortable doing, or they were trading options. There really was nobody trading futures that I really knew at the time. Now with some research, I follow streamers every single day and I watch people trade futures every single day. I trade, I realized that the people, like YouTube isn't a big enough community, right? Because in 2020 and 2021, when everything was going up, everybody was a successful options trader, right? We know about the GameStop, everyone was trading options. So it was really just the thing. So options were pushed forward. It's kind of like how my channel got a little bit of a boost and really became successful because I was making options content as well. I didn't see people doing futures content. So the lack of information just made me a little bit skeptical. But then when I realized is that the people that were trading futures weren't YOLOers. They weren't people trying to get rich quick. They were people that were actually doing this for a living. They were more conservative, so they were a little bit more boring for YouTube. And I was like, well, I've learned that in personal finance, boring and conservative is really the right ticket. So I started to really look into it.
I'll look into it.
But the other reasons for hesitation, I was super successful with options. I learned options through the wheel strategy. I understood them. I made a course about it. I wrote a book about options. I knew options and I really knew how long it took me to become comfortable with options. And I frankly didn't want to learn something new. I was like, if this isn't broke, then why fix it? Why go on to something else? But it's not in my nature to not know things. So I started to do some research. And once I found out the pros and the cons, I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much better they were on a number of different fronts than buying and day trading options. I had no idea. So let's talk about some of the pros and some of the cons that I learned about, and you could put them in the comments down below while you're subscribing if you want more content like this, and let me know if I missed any pros or if I missed any cons. I'm sure there's going to be people that want to leave some cons. The big one for me was no PDT, pattern day trading. So if you want to day trade stocks, you need a minimum of $25,000 in a margin account to be able to do so. There is no pattern day trading rule inside futures. You can trade them with a little bit, you can trade them with $100. It doesn't matter. And this barrier to entry, or overcoming this barrier to entry, was really, really nice. I really liked that it was a way right around the pattern day trading rule. The thing that I liked about options is how much their price action was, right? Like how much you could make trading options. And I wanted that quickness. I know some people don't like to day trade options because it's a little too quick. There's too much jumps, too much volatility. But I kind of like that because I was doing this for fun. It was kind of like entertainment value. So I really wanted the money to move. I wanted it to be a little bit exciting. And because futures are highly leveraged, I was able to get this price action, and depending on your brokerage, they're going to have a margin amount, an initial margin amount that you need inside your account to be able to buy or sell one of those contracts. And it really depends on the broker that you use. Because they're very, very liquid, the spreads are super small. So we don't really need to worry about getting in limit orders. I remember with options, it was always limit orders. The spreads were really big. For what I'm doing mostly, it's very, very easy to just market in and market out without too much slippage, okay? Really, really easy. I like the ability to be like market out, where if you do market out with an option, you could get slapped for a bunch of money. In this case, depending on what you're trading, I guess there'll be wider spreads. In moments of like FMOC, we see the future spreads, they widen, but they come right back in tight, super liquid, easy to get orders filled. You're in, you're out, it's quick. And because it's in and out and quick too, you can set a fixed stop loss and a fixed profit and let it sit there. If you've ever traded an option before, you know if it stays flat, theta's gonna smack you. And you can't really say, I want to get out when the price gets up here, because it really depends on how long it takes to get up here, right? So you're setting your stop losses according to the value of the option, not the price action. That drove me crazy. I hated it. I like looking at the technicals and saying, if it breaks below here, I want out. My trade is invalidated. And if it gets to here, I want to take profits. And I could set those with brackets immediately when I enter the trade, and it's been a game changer for me. And speaking once again of theta, gosh, I do not miss the Greeks at all. There's no Greeks. There's no worrying about IV crush and implied volatility. There's no deciding what expiration date should I choose, right? That's not a Greek, but there's no theta. There's no time decay. There's no vega. There's no Greeks at all. And like I said, on top of that, you don't need to worry about your strike price and your expiration and all these things that I had to worry about. It's Wednesday. Should I make it my expiration next Monday? 0 DTE. What's theta today? When are earnings? Like, I didn't need to think about that with options. And it really allowed me just to focus in on the chart and not just be like blinded and just frustrated with the Greeks. Shit, I hated the Greeks so much. I mean, I love them selling options, but for day trading, they were just so annoying, and I don't miss them at all. And I would say like theta decay is the main reason why I really stopped, because I was doing both. I was doing options and futures, and I was kind of liking it, and I was being so much more successful with futures, and I enjoyed it so much more. I was like, even when I lost, boom, I knew my stop loss. And I was like, shit, why am I being frustrated? I'm getting frustrated every day with options and then going over to futures and being happy. Not enough of us think about tax implications, but the tax implications of futures, so good. So when you're day trading options, right, all that premium is short-term capital gains, right, which is just your standard capital gains. So your standard tax rate. When you trade futures, no. 60% of that is long-term capital gains tax. All of your profits, if you have any profits, 60% of those are taxed at long-term capital gains. Only 40% is taxed as short-term capital gains. Depending on how much money you're trading, that's a significant amount of money. That's a significant amount of money. The difference between long-term capital gains and short-term capital gains can be 10, 15, 20% difference. That's money that you're keeping in your pocket. I think really the last pro is that it trades all hours, pretty much 23 hours a day, 6 days a week. No trading on Sunday, and then no trading right after market hours. They take a little bit of a break, and then the markets open at 6 p.m. So right now it's 8 p.m. The markets have been open for 2 hours for tomorrow's trading session, because this is global. I don't trade the overnight. I've learned just to trade the hours that you trade, and anytime I've been bored and got on late night and I just get smoked, the price action is different. So I really just trade a specific time in the morning. But if you work during the day, or you're off at night, or you're a night owl, or you live in a different place in the world and 9:30 Eastern Standard Time sucks for you, it's a great opportunity to get in there and trade. The cons that I've seen and the cons that I've experienced, I guess when you day trade an option, right, you buy the premium, and that's really your max loss. So even if you are not emotionally strong and don't have great risk management, the most you can lose is the most you bought in. So you're really only going to F yourself hard if you're going in with too many contracts or stuff like that, which is limited by your buying power. Don't get me wrong. I've bought too many contracts and gotten throat punch karate chopped before, but with futures, you can literally lose your whole account. And in the beginning, I didn't realize that, and things go against you quickly. And then $100 becomes $200, becomes $500. I think that's the only con. To me, Besides the fact that you can lose more than options when comparing options to futures, I don't see any other cons. So that's get in the comments. That's all I got for cons. If you're trading options, I promise after a little while, you're never going to go back. You probably never go back. Give futures a try.